Seattle's autumn rain never really stops. It drifts through the gray city air in thin, misty sheets, glistening on asphalt sidewalks, clinging to brick building walls, and turning every ordinary street corner soft and hazy. For 20-year-old Wren Carter, Rainy Street is the only place in the entire bustling city that ever feels like home. Tucked between a crowded coffee shop and a vintage clothing store, tucked away from the busy downtown traffic, stands Page and Hush, a tiny second-hand bookstore with a faded navy storefront, chipped white window frames, and a wooden sign that sways gently in the damp wind. It is the oldest bookstore in the neighborhood, a quiet sanctuary tucked inside the endless noise and rush of modern city life. Wren has worked at Page and Hush for nearly a year, ever since she moved to Seattle for college. A sophomore majoring in English literature, she grew up in a dry, sun-baked suburban town in California, where the sky was always clear and the days stretched long and unchanging. She moved north seeking rain, seeking quiet, seeking a kind of loneliness that felt intentional instead of empty. Her hometown was full of loud, predictable comfort, big houses, familiar faces, endless sunny afternoons that never invited reflection. Seattle's gray, rainy calm, by contrast, felt like a blank page, a chance to redefine herself away from the expectations of family and childhood friends. Page and Hush is more than just a part-time job for Wren. It is her safe haven. The bookstore smells permanently of old paper, worn leather bindings, cedar shelves, and faint vanilla candle wax. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves line every wall, crammed with dog-eared novels, tattered poetry collections, vintage biographies, and forgotten short story anthologies. Books are stacked on wooden tables, piled on windowsills, and tucked into every available corner, creating narrow, winding aisles that feel hidden from the world. Soft jazz plays quietly on an old vintage record player behind the counter, and the large front windows fog constantly from the contrast between the warm interior and the cold damp air outside. The store's owner, Ms. Eleanor Voss, is a 72-year-old retired English teacher with silver curly hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and a quiet wisdom that makes every casual conversation feel meaningful. She hired Wren on a rainy afternoon last fall, after finding the girl sitting on the bookstore's front step, reading a worn copy of Emily Bronte's poetry and hiding from the overwhelming anxiety of starting college in a new city. Ms. Voss does not believe in strict schedules or rigid workplace rules. She lets Wren read while she works, encourages her to rearrange the book displays however she likes, and always says that books are not meant to be locked away. They are meant to travel, to be passed between strangers, to carry stories far beyond their original pages. Most days at the bookstore blend together in a peaceful, unhurried rhythm. Wren restocks shelves, rings up customers, dusts aging book spines, and loses herself in random chapters of whatever novel catches her eye. The regular customers are quiet, thoughtful people, elderly neighbors searching for childhood favorites, college students hunting for cheap textbooks, tired office workers stopping in for 10 minutes of silence amid their busy workdays. Strangers rarely linger. No one stays long enough to truly notice the magic tucked inside the store's worn walls. No one, that is, until Jude Marlowe walks in on a particularly stormy October afternoon. The rain is pouring heavily that day, thick and relentless, beating hard against the bookstore's windows and turning the sidewalk into glistening streams of water. The sky is a deep, muted gray, blocking out all trace of sunlight, and the street outside is nearly empty, most people having rushed indoors to escape the downpour. Wren is perched on a wooden stool behind the counter, halfway through a collection of American short stories, half listening to the soft jazz record spinning on the old player. The store is completely silent except for the music, the gentle patter of rain, and the distant hum of a passing city bus. The bell above the front door jingles sharply, cutting through the calm, and a gust of cold, damp wind sweeps into the store, carrying with it the sharp scent of wet concrete and autumn leaves. Wren looks up, fully expecting to greet a quick customer seeking shelter from the rain, but freezes the second her eyes land on the boy standing in the doorway. He is tall and lean, with messy dark brown hair damp from the rain, a smattering of faint freckles across his nose, and warm hazel eyes that scan the bookstore slowly, like he is searching for something he lost a long time ago. He wears a faded gray hoodie, dark jeans splattered with raindrops, and scuffed white sneakers, and he carries a worn black canvas backpack slung over one shoulder. Water drips gently from his hair and the hem of his hoodie onto the wooden floorboards, leaving small dark puddles at his feet. Unlike most rushed customers, he does not hurry toward a shelf or glance at his phone. He simply stands in the doorway, breathing in the store's quiet atmosphere, his shoulders relaxing like he has finally found a place he belongs. "Sorry to barge in," he says finally, his voice soft and breathless, like he has been walking through the rain for miles. "I just needed to get out of the storm. I won't be in the way." Wren sets her book down quickly, offering a gentle smile. "You're not bothering anyone at all. Stay as long as you want. The rain's not letting up anytime soon." He nods gratefully, stepping further into the store and closing the door gently behind him to block out the wind and rain. While most customers head straight for the fiction or young adult sections, he drifts toward the back of the bookstore, a small, overlooked corner filled with old, uncategorized books, damaged paperbacks, unsigned poetry collections, outdated essay compilations, and anonymous journals left behind by previous customers. It is the section no one ever visits, the one Wren usually avoids restocking because it feels too sad, too full of forgotten stories no one wants to claim. Wren watches him quietly as he browses. He moves slowly, running his fingers lightly over the faded book spines, pausing every few seconds to flip open a random book and scan the first few pages. There is a quiet reverence in his movements, a deep respect for these discarded stories that most people would overlook entirely. After several minutes of browsing, he pulls a small, tattered hardcover book from the bottom shelf, its cover faded blue, its pages yellowed with age, and no title printed on the front. He carries the book over to the counter, his movements careful, like he is holding something fragile and precious. "Do you know anything about this one?" he asks, setting it down gently in front of Wren. Wren leans forward to examine it closely. She has worked at the bookstore for nearly a year, and she has never seen this book before. There is no author name, no publication date, no summary on the back cover. The only marking is a small handwritten date scrawled in blue ink on the inside front page, October 12, 1998. Beneath the date is a single short sentence: "Stories are just hearts waiting to be found." "I've never seen it," Wren admits honestly, running her finger lightly over the handwritten words. "Ms. Voss gets anonymous book donations all the time. A lot of them end up in the back corner. Most are unlabeled, old, or too worn to resell. I've never found one with a note like this before, though." Jude's eyes light up faintly. "Can I buy it?" "Whatever it costs." "It's free," Wren says immediately. "All the books in the back corner are free takeaways. Ms. Voss says if a book has been forgotten long enough to end up there, it belongs to whoever finally notices it." A soft, genuine smile tugs at his lips, the kind of smile that reaches his eyes and makes his whole face warm. That's the nicest rule I've ever heard of. He does not leave after collecting the book. Instead, he pulls out a worn wooden chair from beside the bookshelf, sits near the fogged front window, and opens the unmarked book to read. Wren returns to her own reading, but she finds herself glancing over at him every few minutes, curious and captivated by his quiet calm. The rain continues to pour outside, the city fades into gray mist, and the tiny bookstore feels entirely separate from the rest of the world, a small bubble of peace holding two strangers and a forgotten book. When the rain finally eases to a light drizzle an hour later, Jude closes the book and stands up, slinging his backpack over his shoulder. He pauses at the counter, pulling a small, crumpled notebook page from his pocket and sliding it across the wooden surface toward Wren. "I'm Jude," he says. "I just moved to the neighborhood last week. I'm a music student at the university. If you ever want to talk about books, or rain, or anything at all, I'd like to come back." Wren picks up the paper, which has his phone number scrawled in messy, neat handwriting. Her heart flutters softly, a quiet, unfamiliar warmth spreading through her chest. She has spent her entire time in Seattle feeling lonely, even surrounded by crowds of people. Lonely in lecture halls, lonely in dorm hallways, lonely walking the rainy city streets alone. For the first time since moving away from home, she does not feel invisible. "I'm Wren," she replies, tucking the paper safely into her book. "I work here every weekday afternoon. I'll be here." Jude comes back the very next day. And the day after that. What starts as casual visits slowly blooms into a quiet, steady friendship. Every afternoon after his music classes, Jude stops by the bookstore. He never rushes. He reads in the window chair while Wren works, brings her warm lattes from the neighboring coffee shop, and talks to her for hours about music, old books, childhood memories, and the quiet magic of rainy days. Wren learns that Jude grew up in a small mountain town, where the skies were always clear and the nights were silent, and he moved to the city to study classical guitar. He loves music the way she loves books, deeply, passionately, like it is the only language that can truly explain the quiet parts of his soul. In return, Wren shares her own quiet struggles. She tells him about growing up in a town that demanded constant happiness and brightness, about feeling like her love for quiet, rainy melancholy made her strange and out of place. She talks about her fear of never belonging anywhere, of spending her whole life searching for a calm she can never hold onto. Jude listens without judgment, just like the book she loves, steady, patient, and present. They discover small, perfect similarities between them. They both love old poetry, rainy afternoons, quiet nights over crowded parties, and stories that feel human and unpolished instead of perfect and predictable. They both left their hometowns to find themselves, only to discover that self-discovery is slower and softer than they ever imagined. They both crave connection, but are too shy to reach for it easily, too used to quiet solitude to rush into closeness. Over weeks of rainy afternoons in the bookstore, the unmarked blue book becomes their secret anchor. Jude reads passages aloud to Wren while she dusts shelves, his voice soft and rhythmic like music. The book is a collection of anonymous personal essays and short reflections, all about loneliness, hope, home, and the quiet beauty of ordinary, unremarkable days. Some passages are sad, some are warm, some are short and fragmented, like half-finished thoughts someone decided to preserve. Together, they piece together the quiet story hidden in the book's pages, the story of a stranger who spent their whole life learning to find beauty in the forgotten moments. One gray Sunday afternoon, when the bookstore is empty and the rain is falling softly against the windows, Ms. Voss sits down beside them and reveals the book's hidden history. 30 years prior, a young college student worked at Page and Hush, just like Wren. She wrote every reflection in the blue book during her quiet shifts, filling the pages with her hopes, her grief, her loneliness, and her gratitude for the small bookstore that felt like home. When she graduated and moved away, she left the book on the back shelf, hoping someone else would find it and feel less alone. Books don't just hold stories, Ms. Voss says softly, watching the rain fall outside. They hold pieces of people. Every time someone reads them, they pass a little bit of their heart forward. That book has comforted more lonely kids than you could ever count. The words settled gently over Wren and Jude. In that moment, they realized that their quiet afternoons in the bookstore are not just a temporary escape from city life. They are part of a long, unbroken chain of connection, strangers comforting strangers, lonely souls finding each other in the quiet, forgotten corners of the world. As autumn deepens into winter, the rain turns to soft mist and occasional light snow. Wren no longer feels lonely in Seattle. She looks forward to every workday, not for the quiet of the bookstore alone, but for the boy who brings her coffee, who reads old essays aloud, who understands her love for quiet, rainy days and unpolished, ordinary beauty. Jude no longer feels adrift in the busy, overwhelming city. The tiny bookstore on Rainy Street, and the quiet girl behind the counter, become his new home. One evening, as the sun sets in a faint wash of pale pink and gray over the city skyline, Jude hands the worn blue book back to Wren. He has written a new sentence on the final blank page, right beneath the original anonymous words. The best stories are the ones we find together. I think it's our turn to leave it here, he says quietly. For the next lonely person who walks in from the rain. Wren smiles, her eyes warm and bright. She places the book back on the forgotten back shelf, exactly where Jude found it weeks before. It will wait there, quiet and patient, for the next stranger who needs a story to hold them, just like it held her and Jude. That night, as they walk side by side down the misty rainy street, their shoulders brushing gently in the cool winter air, Wren realizes the truth she has spent months searching for. Home is not a sunny town, or a familiar house, or a fixed place on a map. Home is the quiet moments we share with people who see us fully, the people who love our rainy days, our quiet loneliness, our unpolished, ordinary hearts. The Seattle rain continues to fall, soft and endless, over Rainy Street and the little second-hand bookstore that holds so many hidden stories. And for the first time in her life, Wren Carter knows exactly where she belongs.